My name's Tom Davies. I work in the public sector team at AWS, primarily across local government and healthcare. I've been working in the public sector in IT for about 20 years, about half of it on the public sector side. I was in IT manager with healthcare function for quite some time, about 10 years, and more recently moved over to this side of the factory. Come today to talk to you a bit about big data analytics and the world of AWS. Trying to break it up into three hopefully meaningful sections, which is AWS in the UK public sector, because it's still a relatively new entrant. Big data and smart cities, some of the applications we're seeing used both in the UK and globally. And some part of the possible style stuff with data and AI innovations. We hope, and we certainly try very hard to be quite an innovative company. So, I just sat there asking in the previous session how many of you guys have heard of AWS, and there wasn't too many hands go on, which is, I'm guessing that most of you, or some of the people in the room, have heard of Amazon. Okay, so we became famous selling books in 1996, and that was what most people know us for. One of the things we do internally is we have our end-of-year reviews, as I'm sure you do, and when we focus on each other in our business, we really focus in hard on what we're good at, not just where our areas for improvement are. What do we do well? Is there anything we've got good at that we didn't think of? About 10 years after we started in 1996, around 2005, 2006, during one of these end-of-year review sessions, we realised that without necessarily intending to, we developed a core competency in delivering massive scale data centres at a global level. And the conversation went internally, was this something other people could use? Roughly the same time, we released the Amazon Marketplace, which is called the eBay Marketplace, where people can run their own stores from within our platform. And one of the bits of feedback we can receive from customers is that they found it very difficult to innovate at the pace they wanted to within these stores because they didn't have access to IT on the scale that big businesses do. So that was another one of the drivers that made our data centers available to the world. We launched S3 Simple Storage Service. It was our first product to market in March 2006. It's been commented a few times that this was quite important in creating the startup generation that we've seen since businesses like Airbnb and Netflix, sort of startups, immediately got access to data centers on the scale of Amazon and other businesses at one time. So they were able to use and consume services they hadn't done before. Now what we have seen as we've gone around the world opening these preceding 11 or 12 years is that as we do so, public sectors start to change their behaviour as they consume. The conversation almost always starts off as, can we move some data centre asset, can we save some money? Well, yes you can, but what the conversation ends up becoming is, hey, we can behave like a startup, we can be innovative, we can run hack events. So great talk from Stephen earlier on his innovation labs. It's the sort of thing we're seeing again and again. Council will work in the Lancashire Conspiracy Field on a hack series that is hopefully giving that ability that Stephen was talking about to build at the end. That's what our platform does, is enable that. The bit that's relevant on this slide is here. So we opened the UK region in December 2016, it's quite recently. That region, when we launch a region, it's not necessarily the same as the cloud providers. We have what we call multiple availability zones. An availability zone is a collection of data centers that share a disparate risk profile. That means they're not the same flight path, floodplain, network, electricity, and that kind of thing. So it's the kind of level of security that councils and hospitals also put into the data center architecture. Those are connected in the ways that public sector would expect them to be. They have PSN, AMP assurance, they have JAMET, they have M3 aggregation, all the things that are required. What we've also tried to do is make sure that the accreditations that people require within the UK public sector are available from day one. So we've got over 50 different security and compliance accreditations. Those are the ones most commonly asked for by public sector. Like those are. We've got a number of customers that have been using this for quite some time, and two of the oldest ones are Ordnance Survey and Transport for London. Have you used OS Maps, or like a container platform runs from AWS? Peterborough City Council, they did some IS work with us a few years ago, but they also started a project with the schools on IoT, taking data from weather stations and analysing that on the back end. That's quite a good use of data. Bristol City Council run their digital platform on us. I want to also highlight Aylesbury Vale, who've been very innovative in their use of AWS Pace of Innovation, deliver certain application provision on that. But what they also have done recently is they've taken on board some of the data and AI innovations that we've brought to bear. Whilst I'm sure you have wonderful data centers, it's not necessarily easy to do deep learning frameworks or artificial intelligence unless you have the kind of scale that we do. So Aylesbury Vale have worked with partners to develop a platform whereby that links into their digital book. So you can ask Alexa or Echo units. If you're a citizen that doesn't find it easy to use keyboards or tablets, you can ask them, when will my bins be emptied? Am I up to date with my council tax? The sort of information that's available by general in the applications that are available for council websites. Moving on at a reasonable pace, appreciate we're running a bit of time. Why does cloud matter for big data? Well, Giuseppe covered some of that in his platform, in his presentation. But what we have is scale on a reasonably large level. An average data center that we run is about 50 to 80,000 physical servers. That means that you can turn the amount of servers you need for a given job on and off as you apply. It means if you have a query you need a fast answer for, there's the data, turn it on, turn it off again in an hour's time. You can apply the amount of compute you need, the time that you need it, and not have to invest outside of that. There's a really good example of a business from Leeds called Parallax. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. A startup in Leeds are very active in our AWS Leeds user community and group. Meets most supporters here. What they did, if there's any football fans in the room, any? No, much football in there, okay. So, it's a terrible anecdote. They worked with a DJ called David Guetta to do something for Euro 2016, which was to deliver one voice. So it was promoted, everyone could upload the voice, and he was to get 1 million voices all recorded at the same time. So that business from Leeds provided the data platform for that. And that was all uploaded, and they had initially provisioned around $50,000 to buy physical hardware for that, but by only using those few seconds where people uploaded their voice and then immediately turning their service off again, they were able to deliver the whole thing for a few $100. That's the sort of power the cloud can bring to scalability, even though hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people are involved. Big data tends to map quite well to the three B's that everyone always talks about with big data is variety and velocity. And, I'm going to look volume. Those map very closely to the cloud. I think what we do see a lot is the difficulty as well with ETL. A lot of councils have disparate data sets. You might have some Oracle here that's doing some depends or kind of internal workload. You quite often got some SQL. On HR type workload, you may even have some Postgres or more legacy based data systems. Within the cloud, we have capability to take on all of that and stack and offload it into data like systems. So that's a lot of what we're seeing currently from councils globally. Is that rather than lift and shift everything, they will take a snap of the data and the databases they have, transfer that into the cloud, without having to take all that legacy baggage with them, and run the analytics that Giuseppe was showing you against that quickly at relatively low cost. AWS Big Data Platform, we collect, orchestrate, store, and analyze services that do that. I won't go into in detail, but whether it be a few megabytes for a small single database, or exabyte scale for a large organisation such as FINRA, the United States government, certainly their markets, we have mechanisms that you can get the data very easily and cost effectively into the cloud. We frequently get feedback that ETL activity burns much of the time that should be spent on analytics. So we developed a service called AWS Blue, which can take any JDBC compliant database platform and automate the process, deliver a managed service in terms of making that compliant to run different analytics against. We have a database migration service that can lift from any of the traditional services and move them across either to like for like, or for example from Oracle to Postgres, or Oracle to Aurora, SQL to Aurora, SQL to MySQL. There's been over 24,000 instances of this completed by customers from last year. Once that data's in there, we can store it in various different ways. We have our simple storage service, which is what we know as object. But also we have a more long-term archive called Glacier. So if you're not actively using that data at any given time, you can just store it on something that's incredibly low cost over long-term periods. You don't always have to have it on fast disk. And finally, the analytics tools. We have a service within AWS called AWS Marketplace. We have some visualization tools that just let me show you of our own, which is QuickSight, incredibly low cost to use. But we also support a lot of things that you may well have, and we have a bring your own license model as well. So if you've made existing investments in visualization tools, talk to us or to design the guys, and they can apply some of the migrate some things. Okay, so some of the use cases that we've said, again, Stephen's presentation, he talked a lot about harnessing the community and innovation labs for ideas around data-driven events. So City of Boston was one that very early got flagged with us. Obviously, being in America, they've had their regions for some time. They were on a hackathon some years ago. One of the local citizens came up with the idea of sprinkling. I know there are many different mechanisms cities and towns have used in terms of getting data back on potholes and other such problems with their own. Problem's particularly relevant in Boston because it has massive climate variance. Sub-zero temperatures in winter, right up to 30 plus in summer, which is not that with they're about 5 degrees over here, I'm sure. But they have a real problem with this. So what they do is they use the system. So they have an app that you can run background for street bump that uses the accelerometer in your phone to track where those bumps and problems are that need to be addressed, and they can then target those remedial efforts in the appropriate places. Now, a lot of people immediately ask the question, well, what if you drop your phone and things like that? But, your data guys in this room, you know that it's reasonably achievable to make sure that you can follow the patterns that say, well, if one guy's dropped his phone there, but 1,000 went over this point. And also the severity of as well. You can put whatever metrics you like onto that. The idea of citizens as data sensors is just a fabulous thing. You can use it for many different things. Have any of you guys come across an application called Move It, OOVIT? Stephen's nodding at the back. Anyone else? And this is great. This is available to you all, right? So Move It has around 55 million users now. Services 1,200 cities across the world. It's run by a startup in Israel, and they operate a public-private data model. So you run the app in the background, and then you go and transport around the world, and it will track that activity in real time using the AWS platform, so real-time kinetic streaming, the analytics that can be produced to give the latest information on whether buses, tubes, whatever else it could be, a metro is running like. Once they have that data, they republish that data, they make it available to towns and cities. So you can actually get access to this, charge them monetized by the normal way by doing advertisements. And you can run that against your own analytics if you don't currently have a transport mapping problem, therefore avoiding expensive investments on putting devices on buses and other such things that you may do at present. Doesn't mean you do one over the other, or more data is good generally from my point of view. Another one that was quite interesting, and again trying to share stories from around the world, and this is some UK ones shortly, but New Orleans has quite a disparate demographic mix within its citizen population. And when they studied some open data that was delivered within New Orleans, they could see that there was a large amount of fires within certain areas within the city. So what they were able to do with that was to position resources for that fire engines, or they went through a process whereby they gave out fire alarms in certain communities, and they were able to reduce the amount of fire, injury and death within their city using open data. Again, Stephen touched on it before, but this is the power that you
got to have the idea. Come and tell us what the problem is. We'll tell you if it's been done before. We'll tell you how easy it is or to do on the platform. That's sort of the thing we did there. Okay, it's question time. This is a UK public sector agency doing data analytics in the 1930s. Anybody know who that is? I want to have a guess. Well, what do we do? No, it's good. It's a good guess, but no, not quite. Anyone? This is TfL, Transport for London. Okay. So in the 30s, they went through an exercise where they counted every single individual ticket in order to work out where to place their investments for the coming decades. Where was the infrastructure required? Which routes were the busiest? Back then, there really was no other way to do it. These days, using open data and things, it's slightly easier. I mean, obviously, there's the immediate app, but on top of that, what TfL did with the platforms, they opened up their data sets to the community. And currently, over 1,000 people are working with those data sets. There's an app for everything on TfL. I mean, they can't explain in the first place to deal with their snow days. If they have a strike or inclement weather, they can get 50 times usage spike, and no one wants to have infrastructure and pay for infrastructure gains and only 2% utilised. So they came for that so that they could avoid cost spike, maybe not down when it was declining. But what they soon realised was providing data to the community, and the community would do incredible things with that they didn't have to then do. If you're a pet owner, you download an app that's specific about which routes you will use on TfL to get your pet to the vet. I'll tell you a friendly way to do it. There's a niche for everything. Okay, so various different studies have been done on how much it's used and all the rest. Deloitte did one recently. That there's many times the investment that's been taken from open data has been fed back into the community by the jobs and everything that's created using that data. And what London, smart London, City, everyone has most cities have a platform that they're trying to go smart with. And one of the most frequent questions I get asked is, what is smart city with the data? It has to be, because without the data you can't do anything. This is a very simple, it's not the prettiest slide you'll ever see, but it really is what smart city is. So you've got your data set, which is data derived from citizens, input, feedback, open data. Along the other side, you've got sensor data, and then that feeds in. Once you've got that data, it's what you do with it. Okay. So if you've got IoT out there, I don't know what you guys have today in the show. We see it's relatively easy to put a sensor on a toilet or a bed, and we can track in social care if someone is getting in and out of bed frequently in the middle of the night. But it's the data at the back end. Is that all possible? Can we see if there's a certain frequency that denotes a urinary tract infection? If so, that we can preempt that by using the social worker to go and see that individual and intervene before it results in an A&E presentation. If we're going to use data effectively to address the current issues with social care limitations resulting in A&E presentations where the cost is so much more, it is you guys and how you use that data that will make that difference. And that was one specific example, but there are many. I mean, we don't just say this, we eat our own pudding. I mean, some of the things you may well have heard about, and you've heard of the robotics. We're in a fulfillment centre in Warrington this year. There's already one going to set 1,400 new jobs, but that's even with the robots. So we use the AI on the robots to do the heavy lifting. The people do the intelligent work, the sorting, the decision making. This is where we see that go. Anyone come across Alexa? Anyone have an Alexa? Yeah. Okay, cool. That's artificial intelligence, but we also release the intelligence behind that is usable as a service within AWS. So you can just download it and play with it. Talking about that. In Cambridgeshire, we've got a pilot going on the drones. So drones going out there, delivering your parcels even today, dropping them in your garden. And again, that's all data. Even our product recommendations, if any of you guys have ever used the website, it tells you books you've read before, you might like this one, CDs you've listened before, you might like this one. From day one, our business has been data driven. So one of the things that we've done is once we have this cloud in place, is that we were able to build upon it. So we innovate, we iterate. That's what we try and do within our business. We operate something called two-pizza teams, so we're a very small team that take complete ownership of the project that they're working on, and that's how we're able to, with that platform, deliver such innovation. So last year alone, we released 1,017 new feature releases. And this is fantastic. It's a conversation I've had with Andrew more than once, is that we're now at the rate where we're delivering about 4 new features and services a day. It's really getting hard even for me. I'm paid to do this all day, every day, and I'm struggling keeping on top of this stuff at that pace. So, if you have innovation workshops, if you're doing labs, talk to us, we can come along, get involved, look at what the platform's doing for us and what we can do with you. Three of the most popular ones that are really firing up a lot of innovation out of possible conversations at the minute are poly recognition and like part of the AI service framework. If you're hardcore coders and data scientists, we expose the underlying MX now, the real bits and pieces stuff, but what is of interest often in public sector is the high-level services where we've made them very easy to use. One of our own solution architects over in the States, if any of you are interested in the impact of this to social care, have a look at something called the Palexi project. It's something I shared with Andrew recently who was quite interested in. So what that is, our architect's son he's suffered a form of autism, which means he's responsive to voice prompts, in essence. So the architect used a combination of Alexa, Raspberry Pis, and the services that you're seeing there to give him autonomy. His son's reached 16 years old. And you're only 16 years old. No one wants mum and dad over the shoulder going, go and do this, go and do that all the time. And that's the same with them. So what he's done is create voice prompts so they can say like, go and brush your teeth. Time to come downstairs and have tea, so he can do in his room, do whatever he wants to do. It's augmenting what they can do from giving him an amount of free. That's the Palexi project for freelance. You Google it, it's on YouTube. So Poly is lifelike speech from text. We can do call center on that, free click deployment call center. You can use the AI to answer frequently queries and counterattacks, etc. You guys will be acutely aware of the fact that you pay different costs for different system interaction, several pounds for a face-to-face, a few pounds for a phone call, and next to nothing, pence on your website interactions. The more you can obviously automate, the better. Poly can do things like that. So Poly has Lex, the conversation I need to use within our Connect product, Amazon Connect, which does a contact center, anyone with a phone, or can be rerouted in a few clicks. Recognition as well as image processing. Text and speech, we touched on recently, and again, come with a problem. We'll tell you if it's achievable or what it would take to do it. Aylesbury Vale already looking at that in terms of what they can do in system integration. I was talking to a similar event to this in London earlier in the year. One of the employers that none of you guys do, and we said how easy it was to create this, and it doesn't cost a lot. And showed me. And they were bringing their digital counsellors and the CEO in to see us in London, and a couple of weeks said, show me something. It's that easy, go and build something, show me. So, being honest and open, whilst I'm working for business development these days, I do have an architecture background, and I was in the NHS, and my wife is a health psychologist, and does some job programming as well in free time. So we had, in between the then and now, we had a situation on Friday night where grandmas couldn't look after the kids, so we lost our babysitters. So I mentioned this to Mrs. that I've been challenged to see if I could do this. So we actually went about and had a go at it. We didn't have a start available. We were around, but within a few hours we had a very basic care application. Okay, and what this does is it asks you a series of questions. As you know, you'll have citizens in your community that are not great at using technology as it is, that may be comfortable having a conversation. So Alexa will say to you, did you sleep well last night? Have you eaten today? Did you take medication? Are you warm enough? Basic care provision questions. We take that data, we took that data, we upload it into a Dynamo database, which is no SQL database provision we have in that. So if you were doing it at scale, you guys would run analytics against that, see if there's patterns, people eat early in the day and then not, didn't take medication? Does it impact sleep pattern? Did you go to the toilet more? All that kind of thing. But we were able to do that, and then I was able to show that to the London Borough in question in demo form. I'm happily come to any of you guys just for the sake of the show another time, contact me by various methods. Well, that also emailed the care provider with all those answers. It's not just within the database. Okay, you can set that to go to wherever you want it. The billing, I haven't done that so far, and I've been demoing this for about 3 months now. 65 cents so far. You know, this is function-based data. It's not, you know, we bill on what you use. There's no lot there, you don't pay a lot. Again, it's just an idea. If I don't know the problem, you know, I might have been in public sector for a while, but I've been on this side of the fence for a while. And I'm in another business. We're very respectful of us. We're not part of the technical stuff. Certainly try very hard, but we don't know that we're acceptable. You know the questions are asked, you know the problem you're trying to address. You bring that to us, we can happily help you try and understand what possibilities, what is the art of possible addressing that today. Finally, facial recognition. I'll touch on this one because it's the one that tends to, again, elicit a lot of response from people with councils. And healthcare, whilst by no means has it been done yet, you know, one of the comments I've had before is, could this be used to, we have cameras everywhere, could it be used in theory to track someone across a given area? If someone went missing, an elderly person went missing from a car, you know, and we picking them up on cameras, can that be used? Well, yes, technically speaking, in real terms it can. You know, assist public safety officers finding missing persons, identify employees as they access sensitive locations, you know, cut down on security costs, various different things you guys can do with this book. Please bring us the ideas. I think finally, you know, the idea I'll leave you with is, you know, cloud is an enormous, but not in the way you think of this. This isn't about moving data centers. This is about addressing problems. You know, try and take that startup innovative approach. You know, young people, startups, millennials in general, they don't come looking for barriers. They expect everything to be possible, and they demand answers when it's not. We moved house last week, and my ISP went 48 hours before we got back home, and I told my kids at 12 and 3 that that was going to happen. It's like a cancelled Christmas for the next 3 years, because this expectation of ubiquitous technology is now just the norm. You know, so the more you understand cloud, the more you will come up with creative ideas that can impact, you know, what we do. So, I mean, that's it from me, really. Thanks very much for your time, guys.